Cool. All right. So everyone, I'm Tim, Growth PM. Wanted to walk Jensen through the MR with no pipeline experiment. Just give a quick status update of where we are, what we've been up to. Jensen, let me share my screen. Let me know when you can see it.
Yep, looks good.
Good. Awesome. All right. So a couple of things. The MR with no pipeline experiment has been live now since March 30th. And we've been slowly kind of ramping it up. Right now it's sitting at about 30% of users on .com only. So that's who we're showing it to. But to give you a higher level overview of what it actually is we wanted to identify users on the website who have created an MR that have not created a pipeline, and see if we could actually get them to move through a workflow and set up that pipeline. And really what we wanted to do was a few things, really. See if we could get them to not only set up a pipeline, which would lead to CI minutes usage and potentially an add-on sale. But the second thing really would be to expand or increase stage adoption from create to verify. So as of today, really where we sit is we've got about 5.5% of users who are actually shown the first nudge that are engaging. And then after they engage, about almost 10%, 9.5% of them are actually completing the workflow and creating a funnel, creating a pipeline. The success criteria that we had for this was 15% of users that actually engaged were to complete the flow. So we're going to continue to kind of iterate on the copy and the designs. So I've got that set up right here. And really what I wanted to do was maybe just get some feedback from you at a high level. We've got the dashboard, we've got a clickable prototype, and then I've laid out this issue too, to just gather feedback around, how this workflow is actually going. Do you want to dive into the dashboard first?
Sure.
Cool. So what we're looking at here is basically all of the instrumentation and the events that we had to create in order to collect information on the actual experiment. So it's one thing to build a workflow. It's another thing to actually capture the information on it. At the top level here, what we're doing is just capturing all of the raw counts. And then down here, what we've done is we've split it into two different views. The one on the left here are the actual total events. So what we're looking at is the event counts. And then on the right-hand side, we're looking at the unique users. One thing to just be really clear about is the events, multiple events can be shown to a user. And when we say unique user, we're talking about unique user counts. We're not talking about user ID. So it really is just a count.
Got it. And that's users, not namespaces?
That's correct. It is. It's actual users. So
when you count the like they have a merge request with no pipeline, that's at the user level or the namespace level?
It's at the user level.
Got it. So like a user hasn't created a pipeline.
There's no pipeline available, right?
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So just to walk you through kind of the funnel here, we've got the total user counts on unique users. I think the event count is interesting, but I'm more curious. I'm more interested in the unique users, and this is how we're measuring our success. But we've shown this to about 35,000 users. Almost 2,000 of them have engaged, so about 5.5%. And then once they actually engage, we're displaying the second nudge, displaying the third nudge, and then really the completion point for us is when they engage nudge number 3. This is the actual commit. So they're creating this CI YAML file. And when you walk it all the way over after they've been displayed or they've engaged with the first nudge, almost 10% of them are converting. So at first glance, it's 5.5% of the users are actually clicking in, which I think is a pretty good success. And then of that, about 10% of them are completing the funnel. One of the cool things that I feel like is really important to call out here is Derek from our data team was able to build this out so we could see what happens at a daily level. We've got the counts here, and then we have the conversion funnel broken down by day. So once we start to iterate on this, we're going to be able to see, what happens quickly. So if any new change is updated, we'll be able to see how it impacts the actual funnel.
Got it.
And then I think the other thing that I wanted to show you was just actually the clickable prototype. So this is what we're showing users today. By looking at the data, we know that only 5% of people are actually saying, oh, okay, this is interesting. Show me how. So there might be some opportunities here. Once we show them how, we pop another message that says, hey, choose a template. I had a request in to actually collect this, but it was a little too heavy for our team to A, instrument, and then B, if we were to create a table that just collected this information, it was only going to be used by me, so we decided to not build it. If the experiment's a success and we want to keep it around, it's probably something we'll take a look at, but this is what the second nudge looks like. Once they click this and they actually go into the next step, this is the third nudge, so this is what we're considering success, is when they click on this commit changes. And then after this, we're popping the celebratory kind of message that says congratulations, and we're offering up some other content for them to go in and take a look at. So that's kind of what we got. I'd love your feedback on the designs, the workflow, copy edits, design edits, whatever ideas you have, because I know you've built these things before in the past, so it'd be great to get some feedback for you. It doesn't have to be right now, but
yeah. So the one thing that sort of comes to mind that I think would be a good iteration on this, can I see the dashboard one more time? I want to see the drop off between 1 and 2. Yeah, so there's a pretty big drop off between 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And my theory would be, my hypothesis would be that developers a lot of times don't want to write code directly in the IDE. So you might want to give them a choice of writing the code directly in their IDE or copying it from like a template and pasting it into their own code editor on their local machine, and then committing that code, committing that file, and count that as like a success.
Interesting. So basically right here,
somewhere right there, like maybe before this or something, where you would say like, write it directly or
just that copy clipboard kind of icon, right, that they could collect. Yeah. That's actually a really good idea.
I would make it a little bit more active, like have them choose whether or not like to write it right now or copy it for your own code editor, copy a template for your code editor or something like that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But that's like, there's like a lot of sort of ownership over what code editors they use and how the code is, how pretty it is, and just, where you write code is a big deal.
Yeah, I think that speaks kind of to the mindset of the developer, right? And I hadn't really thought about it that way.
Yeah,
and the tools.
I think that the IDE is great. It's great mostly for like quick changes to your code. Like if you've committed something and you like have a colon that's causing failures or something, mm-hmm. You can just change it real quick and then merge it, right? And it provides like a really quick way to make fixes rather than doing it, in your own code editor and then get pushing it. But that, I would just say like that's probably why you're getting that big drop off between 1 and 2. Is people don't want to, they don't want to commit a full file from the IDE.
That's good feedback. The other thing that stood out to me on this was that, 5.5%, I think we could do better here. And if we increase the conversion at the top of the funnel, it's going to be easier for us to convert at the bottom of the funnel. Does anything stand out to you when we look at this at the beginning? Is there anything we could do different?
The one thing that stands out to me is like when I was not super familiar with GitLab, I don't really know what a pipeline is. Like that nomenclature doesn't introduce me to like, it doesn't fully explain what that feature is. Mm-hmm. So I think it's likely that a lot of people are like, I don't know what this is, and I don't got time to learn about this right now. So maybe like a little bit more visual explanation of like what a pipeline is and what they would be adding would be useful. Because, like if you go to learn about CI, it's pretty complicated, right? Like there's pipelines, there's jobs, there's triggers, there's runners, there's all of this different stuff that you have to sort of grok before you know how to use the feature. And I think a lot of times people are like, this is too complicated.
It's an interesting point. Let me think about that.
So maybe speak a little bit more to the value also, like as opposed to the feature, like, deploy your code with a click of a button or whatever, whatever that might be. Speak a little bit more to the value and visualize that a little bit more here.
Trying to think if there was any other areas that kind of jumped out at me. It feels like they're pretty good preliminary results. Just need to
I would say
it.
So.
If we could get this to 7, I bet you this would come up almost naturally to 15%. Right. We hit our success criteria. I want to go through a couple of different iterations with the team before we just continue to increase the exposure. So trying to be mindful of that too. But cool.
Yeah.